Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm excited to share a home decor or craft room type decor project with you featuring brand new stencils from Simon Says Stamp. These are from the Sunny Vibes release, and we are going to decorate an 8 by 10 inch canvas with these awesome happy rainbow stencils as well as stamps. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks along the way to be able to not only get really good stenciled impressions, but to also stamp on your canvas. So first up, I purchased these just at my local Walmart, these canvases. It came in a 2-pack. And I was showing there on the packaging, it does say that it is primed 3 times. However, if you're feeling a pretty rough texture on your canvas, I like to make it kind of as smooth as possible, if that makes sense, so that when I apply the paint, it doesn't wick out. So what I have here is some Ranger Multi-Matte Medium, and I'm just using a paintbrush, and I am applying a generous but even coat to both of my canvases. I did do 2 canvases at once in this video. They're exactly the same, so I will eliminate some of that in the video, but I wanted to show how I am applying that multi-matte medium. And just for complete transparency, I actually applied this a couple of days before I did my stenciling. I wouldn't have had to have waited that long. That's just kind of how it worked out. But you do want to make sure it is all the way dry before you do any stenciling on your canvases. And I did try to get a very even application. If I'd had a foam brush, that probably would have been easier. I didn't, so I just used my paintbrush and made sure to wash it out with some mild soap and water immediately after applying the multi-matte medium. Now I'm going to set these aside to completely dry, and when I come back, I'm going to take some 1-inch masking tape and we're going to mask off the edges. So this is the Happy Rainbow Stencils. It's a 6x9 stencil set, and it is awesome. Look at that. So I'm kind of using the back of the packaging as my guide here. And again, I'm just taking this masking tape to mask the edges off. Now, the reason I'm masking the edges is I wanted this even kind of frame, even though it's not exactly a frame, all the way around. The canvas is 8 by 10. The stencils are 6 by 9. And because of that, I really wanted to just have this very even look all the way around. You would not have to do this at all if you don't want to. This masking tape is going to pull away very easily when I am done. And you'll notice I am just lining it up with the edge of the canvas and placing it where it goes. Any kind of low tack painter's tape, something like that, even a washi tape would work. I just wanted that 1-inch border, and I had this 1-inch roll of masking tape, so that's what I used. Now, my other recommendation is Pixie spray on the back of your stencil. Make sure you're using it in a well-ventilated area. And I took it outside, gave it a very generous spray. Make sure that you let that Pixie spray sit on the back of your stencil for a minute, and then take it to your project so that it's not super wet, but it's just tacky. The reason I want to use this is I want to make sure that I can eliminate as much paint as possible from seeping underneath the edges of my stencil. The other thing, if you can purchase some inexpensive pouncers, I got these off of Amazon. I will link them down below. I would highly recommend these, or pick them up at your craft store, instead of using a paintbrush and painting it on. A paintbrush is going to maybe seep underneath the edges more than a pouncer will. And I am using distress paints from Holtz for all of my stenciling today. I used Kitsch Flamingo for my first stripe of the rainbow, and I will even share some changes and kind of quote unquote fixes I made along the way. Next, I have a little cracked pistachio. Instead of using a green, like a green twisted citron or mowed lawn or something like that, I am using cracked pistachio. And I have a different pouncer. These were super inexpensive. I have a different pouncer for each color for the most part. I may have reused a couple here and there if I had a darker color that I could use with that same pouncer. And I'm using them all at one time. All of my painting for both canvases was done at the same time. I actually did not clean my canvas in between the two canvases. So if you're maybe you're making these for friends, you could very, very easily do that. So next I have a little purple, and I'm thinking it's shaded lilac. I will have it down in the description below. My advice, I am using a backer paper from Foam Adhesive because it was convenient and I was lazy and didn't want to run down to my basement to get a paper plate. But use something where you can pounce off some of the paint before you take it to the canvas. And then while that paint is still wet, and again, the pouncers just help not get so much paint on the project where it goes underneath. Peel that stencil off and then set your canvas over to the side to dry. Now, if I was only making one of these, I would probably give about 10 minutes dry time in between each. What I did, because I'm doing two canvases at once, I immediately stuck it down on my second canvas because they were both prepped at the same time and it was ready to go. And I'm going to immediately pounce on the color for the second canvas. And again, once I'm done with this, then I'm going to take this stencil to my sink and use some mild dish soap and warm water and clean my stencil and set it aside to dry. And by the time I have that done, which didn't take that long really, I took the second stencil in the set. It's a set of 4, and I went outside, sprayed it with pixie spray, and came back, and I was ready to do the next raise of the stencil on that first canvas. So that was kind of my process throughout until I get to that final stencil, which is the layering. And that one, I gave my whole rainbow maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes or so before I went in and started with that final stencil. I'm adding just little bits of paint as needed, depending on the raise of my rainbow and all of that. You know, it's going to be different for each because they are all different sizes and widths. So just pouncing on my color and try to get it by with as little as possible. You will like the results a lot better. Okay, I'm going to peel this one away. And again, we're going to go give this a really good wash. We're going to spray our second stencil and we are going to come back. So now I am lining up stencil number 2 and just making sure that it's nice and even, pressing it in place right there on my canvas. And we're going to make sure we're mixing up our paints. Now I have a little bit of carved pumpkin, and this is the widest ray of the rainbow. And so I did use a bigger pouncer for this, but I pounced off a lot of the paint before bringing it to my canvas because this was the one I was the most worried about, strangely enough, leaking underneath, just because it's such a big area. And just going to pounce all of that on. Full disclosure as well, because these were just cheap little pouncers, I didn't wash them out or anything. I got them in a huge bag and I just discarded them and threw them away when I was done. They come in 4 different sizes. This was the biggest one. I don't think I used the big one very many times, or the teeny tiny one. The 2 middle sizes I used a lot, kind of what I'd call the small and medium. So we had extra small, small, medium, and large. I use small and medium a lot. So now I'm just kind of making sure that I'm picking the right color next. And this color, I'm trying to think which ray this is. This must be the blue one. And I believe I used Mermaid Lagoon is what I ended up using for this ray of the rainbow. We're skipping around a lot because you don't want to stencil. Obviously, the stencils are designed this way so that you're not stenciling the same color right next, or not the same color. You're not stenciling right next to the previous color because then you wouldn't really have a stencil. So each one kind of skips around, and I just am double checking often to make sure that I'm getting everything where it needs to go. And I just realized the first purple color I used with that first stencil was Dusty Concord. This one is Wilted Violet. And using just a small pouncer to pounce that color on. And just like before, once we have everything stenciled, I am going to peel this away. We're going to pull this second canvas in. And at this point, I was really second guessing all of my choices in life. I was not loving it, but I just decided to go with the process and keep going. And I'm glad I did, because the final result is beautiful. Now, this is what a pretty simple canvas looks like. You could add splatter if you wanted to. You could ink around the edges. You could have added a nice light color base to the whole thing. There's a lot of different things you could do to dress this up or make it your own. I wanted a very simple, very classic rainbow canvas. It's really going to match a lot of the other decor in my craft room. You guys probably have a lot of rainbow decor too. I know it's very popular. I don't have tons and tons of it, but I thought it would work really nice with some of the other items I do have. And I think this would make a fantastic gift for your, girlfriend crafters or whatever that you have. So again, we're just working through stencil or canvas number 2. And when I am completely finished with this one, we're going to peel that stencil away. We're going to let our canvases sit for probably about 10 minutes or so while we wash up the canvas, make sure and get as much of that paint and stuff off as possible, and set it aside to dry. Not all of the pixie spray is going to come off of the back of your stencil. I am just okay with that. It will lose a little bit of stickiness. I do use a soft nail brush to clean my stencils as well. Okay, we have 2 more rays of our rainbow now, plus that cute little heart down at the bottom. And we are going to go with mustard seed for our yellow. And we're going to start with that first. And again, just pouncing off a lot of the paint. And we're just going to start adding the color to our rainbow. Now, this is the stencil that I made a color choice that I end up not loving, and I'm going to fix at the very end. And I am going to leave that in and show you, because I wanted to show the beauty of stencils is you can fix these things. Festive Berries is my little color, and I'm using that little extra small pouncer for that little heart. I love the little heart. You guys know I'm here for the little heart details. So the rainbow ray that I don't particularly love the color, and I think it's just too light. I use Tumbled glass, and we are going to replace that with Salvaged Patina. I really struggled. I thought Salvaged Patina, for some reason, was going to look too similar to Cracked Pistachio. And it doesn't. Cracked Pistachio has a green tint to it. Salvaged Patina just has enough more blue in it that it's going to show up with our rainbow much better than Tumbled glass. But I wanted to show you guys because I think it's important that you may not hit it out of the park, but you can with your first try. You may not hit it out of the park with your first try, but you can salvage your project just by going over it with another color. And you can see, I knew at this point, but I guess I was committed. It's just too light. It's just too light for this project, but we're going to go ahead and continue, and let's ink up the second canvas just like the first. Time for our final stencil now, and this has all the amazing layering. So for this one, I am either going to go in with a color I've used before. So Festive Berries was used for the heart. I'm going to use this over the pink. I love the pink and red. And I'm also going to use mustard seed over the carved pumpkin for the orange, but we may pull in some additional colors as well. We have some cute little stitching over the Cracked Pistachio. We have the fun little scallopy border over Mermaid Lagoon, and then the little stitched border, which I think I'm just going to use some of the Dusty Concord on. So now we are simply working on each of these. I did try to stick to the smaller pouncers so I wouldn't accidentally pick up another color onto my pouncer, and just working my way through. Now, these may not be super perfect. These are obviously much more detailed stencils. I, again, would really encourage you to pounce off a lot of the ink. Use as little as possible, or as little as you can get away with and still get a good result. But don't get too hung up. If it's not perfect, it's still gonna look amazing when it's dry. For the little stitching and stripe, I'm going to use Peacock feathers over the cracked pistachio. And then we're going to use picket fence for the little cloudy scallop. And then, like I said, dusty concord for that last little no, I lied. Not dusty concord. I forgot, I changed my mind. I used saltwater taffy for the little stitching line around the purple. I decided to pull a little bit more pink in. I thought it was going to be too much purple at the bottom. I remember now. I really had fun playing with my distress paints. I don't know about you guys. You maybe have a lot of these paints in your stash as well. I don't use them as much as I should. This was a super fun project for literally just playing with paint and making something pretty and happy. I highly encourage everyone to, sometimes just step outside of your normal comfort zone and make something completely different than what you normally make. This is really not something I normally make. I have been making more canvases, it is true, but not that many. And oh my gosh, I just had the most fun making this. And here I am just playing with all of the different paint, seeing what do I like. This is, of course, that saltwater taffy. I like the saltwater taffy. It definitely is pink, but it's not Kitsch Flamingo. It's not spun sugar. It's not picked raspberry. It's kind of got a little bit. Picked raspberry would have been great, and I really was going to use picked raspberry here, but guess what? I don't have picked raspberry distress paint. How is that possible? Anyway, so saltwater taffy it was, and I do love it. I love it as that divider between the purple and the red of the heart. And then, of course, we have our picket fence little white, cloudy, scallopy border. Now, when I pull this away, you're going to see how I instantly knew that tumbled glass border, it's almost white. I really, really knew. I was like, yeah, that's going to have to be fixed. I don't like it. So now I want to stamp my greetings using the Create stamp set from the Sunny Vibes release. And I am slightly curving my greetings, but do you see those two acrylic blocks that I just showed you underneath my canvas? They are providing the stability to stamp on. You're not going to get a good result unless you have something underneath that open part of your canvas, a book. If you have big acrylic blocks like this, I highly recommend them. You're going to see me move my canvas as I stamp the entire greeting. It's going to provide that nice, firm, stable surface to stamp your sentiment. So I have curved Create so that it goes along the top curve of my canvas. And then my second part of the sentiment, Your Own Path to Happiness, is curved on another block. Stamp your sentiment on a scrap piece of paper first, especially if you've never used that greeting or that stamp set before. And I am using some Black Soot Distress Archival ink to stamp this. I would say just a good black dye ink here is going to be your best bet. And I thought this turned out great. I love how this looks. And then we're going to take the second part of our sentiment, and I am just double checking. Do I like the curve? Just fixing it. It's just a nice little soft curve. And again, same thing. I'm going to move my canvas, make sure it's nice and firm under where I'm going to stamp, ink it up, test it on a scrap piece of paper a couple times, make sure I have a good impression. And when you take it to your canvas, make sure you press it nice and firmly. I wasn't loving that, so I took a small moment to make sure, and then I stamped it on a scrap piece of paper. So nervous at this point to mess up my canvas, but I'm going to press it down and then just give it a nice even press and a very tiny little rocking motion. And there is my greeting. Okay, so I did both of my canvases and now everything is dry and I am going to fix that rainbow ray that I don't love. And this is where we're going to take Salvaged Patina. At this point, I honestly think that the blue does show up a little bit better, but it's just not quite that tealy aqua color that I want. I briefly considered, I have lots of paint over here on my little palette. I briefly considered a different color. I mean, it was a struggle. And then I accidentally picked up some of the cracked pistachio. So I'm going to have to blend that out, but it will be fine. I'm doing a very light application of the Salvaged Patina. And I instantly knew I liked that better. I think it makes the little white cloudy scallopy border pop much, much better. So let's just fix the second canvas. Same thing. We're just going, I needed a little extra ink. I have to wipe away some of mine and you can see it's dried. I'm just throwing this away when I'm done. This is Nichol is Lazy and again, didn't go get my paper plate palette. Something flat that I could pounce it off on. And we're just going to pounce on the second one. Nice little thin, even application. And that is it. I'm going to go clean my stencils and then we're going to peel off our masking tape and reveal our finished canvas. So I did not leave the tape on for very long. I honestly rinsed off my stencil and now I'm just peeling it off. You can kind of even tell that the Salvaged Patina is still a little wet and I'm going to set these down flat to completely dry. I would suggest sealing them with some sort of a sealant to make sure that, you know, the paint won't run or anything. I like a spray sealant, whatever you like. I did that part off camera and that is it. Thank you so much for joining me today for this stenciled rainbow canvas. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, click that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new video. Thanks for watching!